Hey, what's going on guys? I'm Mr. 4 here. Today I'm back with a brand new standard deck profile. Uh, I'm not sure whether you classify this deck as budget or not because this deck has actually a lot of foils. But then again, these foils are relatively cheap because no one actually plays this build very often. But I thought I might as well promote it since I have it. Today's deck is from the latest set by Glorious Justice. Although it won't be latest by the time this video comes out, my recording schedule will release this right after the release of Gauntlet Buster's debut. So this will be the second newest set by Glorious Justice, which brought us Roaring Beast Audion. Now, Roaring Beast Audion has a very interesting skill, and honestly, I just had to build this deck because I just thought it would be super fun, and it is super fun. So we'll get right into that today. I just want to briefly mention that in terms of the next set for the I don't even know what's the name of the new set, the Aerial Steed Liberation thingy. I will be doing an updated deck profile for Detonix and Thunderbreak, but high chances is I will not be doing one for Gauntlet Buster. I will be stating how to build a Gauntlet Buster deck, but I definitely won't be doing a deck profile because I don't have money to buy another 4 set of VRs. Definitely not after Detonix Drill already burned my wallet and it still affects me till today. We play 4 Roaring Beast Audion. Audion has 2 very interesting abilities. The first one is Soul Blast at grade 3. Take as many rear guards as you have and put it into your soul. He gains 5k and a crit for each. This is your finishing ability. This is the ability you want to end with because as long as you pull at least, even pulling one of your rear guards is already deadly enough for 5k crit, and you'll see why the crit has a lot of value later on. If you pull 2 or more, you gain 2 crits, and that's usually enough to kill off your opponent. You don't need to pull in any more, but if you really want to gamble, you can just pour out your whole hand and suck into the soul, if you know for a fact that this attack will hit and will demolish your opponent. The second ability is when he attacks, Soul Blast 3, and if your opponent wants to guard, he has to guard with 2 more Guardians from hand. It's a very basic skill that I think we've all seen multiple times throughout many clans, and you may be wondering, so what's the point of that? Well, there's actually a combo to use with Audion, and I will be going through it later on. Whatever it is, he's actually pretty solid if you know how to pilot him. Although yes, it is a budget deck, but his strengths can be well manipulated, and with a lot of foils, it can be done. The next grade 3 is a very surprising one. Super Dimensional Robo Disaurus. Disaurus is by far my favorite grade 3 in terms of art, even topping Cohen. He just has such an amazing art that you just can't say it's not cool. It's a freaking robot dinosaur. I can see why DP loves this. Different Fight loves this clan. His skill is, on the Vanguard, he gains 5k for every damage you have. Now this is actually a very important skill, and I know it's very easily overlooked. And here's why. As long as you have 2 or say 3, you instantly gain 10 to 15k for free. And this will unlock a lot of your abilities that require you to be at least 30k and above. So even if you can't ride into Audion, this is a good boss to stall for time, as you can still use your abilities and you can stock up to use for Audion later on. His second ability is a little bit more powerful. On the Rearguard circle, Counterblast 1, after he attacks, if your Vanguard has 30k, yeah, put him in the soul, he gains the Vanguard again will gain an additional 10 and another drive. So now with Disaurus, Audion can triple drive, and that is a very huge threat, especially when you're stocking up for high number. And I will be showing you why. It is honestly very good. Of course, like I said, draw PGs will come in this deck, but then again, your opponent only has 4 draw PGs, and that's the main strength of this deck. We are going to drain out those 4 PGs and make sure they can't guard anymore, and I'll be showing you why in just a bit. Just some notable mentions. This is the monster build, so a lot of people have been thinking of using Battling Leader Grey Geo. His skill is Counterblast 1. Look at it, your opponent either pays a Counterblast, or you can call the top 2 cards from your deck to the rear guard. The second skill is, when he's being attacked, you get to Soul Blast 1, move 2 of your rear guards to the Guardian Circle. He's honestly a good card. The only flaw is he has no gift, and that's the only reason why I don't play him. He's good for Audion to build up your board, and that, I think honestly that was the intended effect. because DP has very little or if not no way of superior calling, and that is one of Audion's only weakness. He has a problem with filling up board, so board has to be filled up from your hand, and I think that was what Grey Geo was supposed to solve. He was supposed to help you with that, and then lead you up to Audion. But honestly, Disaurus can give you similar amounts of value or if not higher, and that is honestly why I would still prefer Disaurus over Grey Geo. Next up in grade 2s, we have Quick Hero Active Mask at 4 piece. Quick Hero Active Mask is your side boss and finisher, and he is to be used alongside Audion or your Vanguard with 30k or higher, and you'll see why. Usually, whenever I play my Dimensional Police deck, the first force marker instantly goes to the Vanguard so that I can pump my Vanguard up 23, and the next force marker would go to a Rearguard Circle for Active Mask. Because with the force marker, as you all could probably guess, Active Mask reaches 20k, and his ability is, after your Vanguard attacks, if your Vanguard had 30k or higher, Counterblast 1, stand this unit. So you can go for 2 swings with Active Mask at 20k, and then you still have the Audion attack to deal with. To top it all off, if you have Disaurus as well, you can give in some devastating combos. The only problem with Dimension Police is honestly the Counterblast, since there's no way to countercharge, and many cards in this deck Counterblast. There's actually supposed to be a lot more that Counterblast, but I've removed them because they get too clunky at one point in time. So really for Dimension Police, and I'm sure all players feel the same way, it's about resource management to its best. But if you can manage it well enough, you will be very strong. And Henshin, 3 Grendel. Honestly, Grendel is here because I have no idea what else to put, and Grendel is a Carbon Rider, so he just had to be in here. But I think Grendel's ability to become a 15k beater, as long as Audion has sucked in 1 Rearguard or more, is truly effective. The best part is, if you get a critical trigger, he will also gain 5k. As long as your Vanguard just has an extra crit, he instantly plus 5, and I think that was a really neat side ability. Of course, what I was thinking about trying is Little Fin monster Dark Giril. Dark Giril is of course the monster counterpart of grade 2. His skill is, if your Vanguard's 30k or higher, Counterblast 1, move him to the soul, your Vanguard gains 15k and draw a card. Honestly, it is not a bad card. I honestly like Dark Giril for flavor and everything, but the only problem with Dark Giril is he only just pumps extra numbers and that's it. Dimension Police, you really need to know how much is enough, because there will be a point in time where extra numbers don't mean anything anymore. If your opponent is going to die, he is going to die. And the Color Blast is really costly for just a pump 15k. I mean, if you compare Dark Giril to something like Disaurus, you obviously spend the Color Blast on Disaurus than on Dark Giril. And then of course the next combo piece that I haven't gone through yet is Glory Maker. And there are other cards as well in this deck that Color Blast, so you really don't need Dark Giril. Of course, if you still like Dark Giril, or if Dark Giril happens to play an integral strategy for your monster deck, then play Dark Giril. But for me, I honestly feel that there is a limit to high numbers. We don't need that high of a number. I play 3 copies of Sexilia because she is common, so she's cheap, and she has a 10k shield. Because Dimension Police, honestly, the board numbers is one thing, but like I said, because Audion has no way to fill up your board, you're gonna need to call cards from hand, which means your hand needs to be good. Sexilia is not a call target, she is mostly a defensive target, and I will show you why in just a bit. Your grade 1s are mainly used for on board, and you may want to save them for shield value, and I'll be going through each of them. I play 4 Gene Laser because Gene Laser is cool, okay? He's a freaking kaiji that looks like something out of Pacific Rim. Rest the Rearguard and he gains 10. I know it is relatively underwhelming compared to the other options I had for this deck. Like, I could have played an additional Quill or Commander Laurel, but we'll be discussing why. Commander Laurel is suffering from the same problems as Dark Giril. For a Counter Blast, you can literally just copy out the same effect. It's good that you can double the attack and give an extra crit, and honestly, you don't have to use Laurel on Audion. You can use it on an Active Mask, and Active Mask will soar to a 40k to crit. That sounds good and all, but the feasibility is low. And also, if you are using this technique, if you are using Commander Laurel, you are going to suffer in the long run, because then you will be bypassing Glory Maker, which is the strongest grade 1 in this deck. Glory Maker needs all the counterblast she can get, and so if you start using it just to chalk up a little higher number for Commander Laurel, and remember, Laurel needs to rest 4 rearguards, and that is very costly. Whereas for Gene Laser rests 1 and he gains 10. So even if your Audion only sucks 1, you can just suck in the 1 that was rested by Gene Laser, and there's no harm loss at all. And he can do it on the Vanguard, so yeah. But anyway, Gene Laser is also very good, I must mention. If there's a great one on your column, in one of your columns, that is just sitting there doing nothing, and there's nothing it can boost, you can just rest that rearguard and technically transfer its boost over to Gene Laser. The best part is, if Gene Laser itself is boosting something, then you just got a double boost for the boost target. The next one is 4-dimensional Robo Dibrave, double rare from EBO2. Dibrave skill is activated once per turn, so +1, your Vanguard gains +5. You won't be using this on a Vanguard, trust me, but you will be using this on a Vanguard sometimes if you want to chalk up a higher number. After your Vanguard's attack hits, move this into Soul and draw a card. It depends on the timing, honestly. You can rest Dibrave to use for something like Gene Laser, and then after that you can use Dibrave skill, Soul Blast, give Audion +5, then use Audion skill, take it into the Soul plus another 5 and a crit. Or if you value the draw a bit more, you could just stop without absorbing Dibrave, and then when Audion's attack hits, hopefully, you then put Dibrave into Soul and draw a card. Another thing I must mention is this can work in early game as well very effectively. Use this for an early game boost, take it into the Soul and draw, will help you build up early game a lot. Additionally, if you build up Soul early enough, you can use Audion quicker and you can end the game faster. I play 4 Glory Maker, and as I said, she is the strongest grade 1 in this deck. Glory Maker's skill is, when she boosts, if the boost target is 30k or more, counterblast 1, and your opponent can only guard grade 0. Now, I like to mention 2 things. First of all, it counts with a boost power. That means if the fella you're boosting is only 22, you boost her, it gets +8, 30, it hits the requirement. I need to say this first. Secondly, guarding grade 0 is just wonderful. First of all, it only stacks him down to grade 0, and not even Protect can save him. So usually Force loses out to Protect because they just gamble on their Protect markers, but Glory Maker just instantly says no. I mean, if you combine with Audion, he's forced to put down 2 grade 0s down, and if you play the combo correctly with stuff like Disaurus and Active Mask, you will end the opponent, and that's for sure. Secondly, I must say as a quick disclaimer, this totally outcucks budget decks. That means any deck that happens to play grade 1s, Kanzen Guards, this totally outcucks them. I'm using a budget deck to outcuck a fellow budget deck, and I know that's pretty sad, but this is reality, this is the meta. But that part's not really the strong point. The main point is to pressure on the grade 0 Kanzens. We play 3 Quilt because 4 is excessive. Quilt's skill is, when placed on Vanguard Rearguard, drop a card, your Vanguard gains +10. Honestly, you're not using the Vanguard skill, come on. You don't need an 18k beat on turn 1, that's just retarded. The second skill is, when your Vanguard attacks, if he has 30k or more power, count +1, draw a card. You only use this ability if you are in extreme desperation for power, for card draw. Because count +1 to draw is really underwhelming, like I said, compared to the other effects that they grant for simple counter blast in this deck. So I won't always be using this ability. Actually, most of the time I don't. But if you just happen to need a draw, you can use it. I'm not going to stop you if you're building this deck and you use this Quilt's ability. For trigger lineup, it's very special. For draw, for crit, and I just love this crit, come on. Daikar thingy, and then we play 8 draw. 4 draw Kanzen, and 4 draw Penguin. Why? You honestly don't need crits, and I know this is weird for Dimension Police, but please hear me out. The monster deck has more than enough ways to gain crit, as I shown through Audion. A simple sucking up of 2 rearguards, you gain 10k and 2 crits, and that is insane value. So you really don't need extra crit triggers. Sure, you do need power, and that's why I still play triggers in the first place, but the crit effect He just loses his redundance. Like I said, if the opponent's going to die, he's going to die. But the other thing is this Penguin and the draw, they help you draw cards, which Audion desperately needs. Like I said, Audion has no way to Superior Call, so you're going to need card draw. And this is a subtle way to do it. Same thing with my build with Blade Master and Standard beforehand. If you can't add in cards to draw for your main grade 3-1 lineup, you just play more draw. And you can do this once you usually do this technique for triggers if your Vanguard 1 doesn't need extra crits because he can apply more than enough pressure by himself, but he needs hand backing. As we've seen from the example from Blade Master, he can really deal high amounts of pressure in a single turn. It's just that he needs cards in hand to pull off his combo of discard 2, Doha, Garan, Soul Blast 1, Grade 3. High conditions. Same thing with Audion. Audion needs rear guards in a deck that rear guards don't come often. And most of the time, as you've clearly seen, with cards like Dibrave, Disaurus. Yeah, all these cards go into the soul, as well as Audion, who would suck up cards himself. You really don't need crits anymore. You really just need draws. And that's why we played 8 draws. So I really hope you enjoyed this drawing this Audion deck profile. Oh, and the starter. This guy. Sorry for camera. So I really hope you did enjoy this deck profile. Honestly, this took me a lot of playtesting, a lot more than normal for a budget deck. Usually budget decks are relatively cut in stone because it's usually a fixed amount of options, but I mean, yeah, cheap forest is one thing, but this deck really needed a lot of experimentation. It's not very clear cut in what to play and what not to play. Some cards seem very good on paper, but when you actually play it out, it's really pathetic. Besides, in terms of resource management, DP has horrible resource management because there's no way to countercharge at all. I mean, sure, Kagero may have an expensive countercharger, but at least it is a countercharger. We don't even have one. So, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this budget deck profile, do leave a like, subscribe. I will be making a few more videos in the future. Like I said, there will be one on Detonix coming up. There will be more fight videos, hopefully. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time.